Welcome back to a Celtic State of Mind. I'm Paul John Dykes, and today I hopefully will be joined by a few of my comrades where we will be looking forward to tonight's game in the Champions League. I'll be covering that game live at Barra's Art and Design with Jackie McNamara. And Jackie, of course, played against Dynamo Zagreb back in 1998. I'll be looking back to those two fixtures where we were introduced to a certain Marko Viduka, and we were reintroduced to Robert Prozanecki. At some point today, I hope we are going to be joined by Liam Carrigan, Lawrence Connolly and Ian Conroy. But until then, I'll be talking to you guys, as well as our very own resident proprietor of the Skylark Bar. It's been a few weeks since we've seen him. Please, a round of applause for Mr. Lawrence Connolly. Lawrence Connolly, here we go. How are you doing, big game?
I'm doing well, mate. It's good to see you.
Long time no see.
Yeah, it has been a wee bit cold and a bit busy with work, but yeah, things haven't really changed in the Celtic world. Brendan's still got his winning games, and hopefully today's the day we win away.
Absolutely. I mean, you look at the fixtures when they came out, and we'll be bringing up the graphic again at some point here. And there were certain games, Lawrence, that you looked at and thought we could take something from that. We're hoping for a win there. Was this one of those games when the draw was made?
I think I'm more confident now than when the draw was made. You thought you'd have a chance away against them, but they've not won in 5 games. And I think our last performance away from home in this showed that we could be a decent team away from home. So it's given us something to build on. I think, if we win tonight, I think that's us guaranteed knockout stages. So big prize for the boys.
Yeah. Big prize. And this is the thing. It's a new setup. We've been talking about it all season. I don't recall hearing anybody saying they don't like the new setup. The new, it's more open. It's one game. It's either home or away. The league then splits into 3 sections. The bottom 3 have no European football for the rest of the season. The top 8 will qualify for the directly into the knockout stages, and places 9 to 24 go into the playoff. And at the moment, you're ranging from 10 points, Aston Villa, right down to Real Madrid on 6 points. That's the 9 to 24. The figure that was bandied about was 9 or 10 would get you qualified. That is still looking pretty likely, and Celtic are sitting on 8. A win away from home, and you consider we've had a heavy defeat, a fantastic performance against Atalanta. Zagreb is set up and lined up for that away day win. But Brendan Rodgers wasn't having it yesterday in the press conference, was he, Lawrence? He wasn't having all this talk of a crisis, an injury crisis, a crisis of confidence with the form.
No, listen, it's Champions League games, and it's a top level competition in Europe, so he's got to keep the players focused. He doesn't want them getting ahead of themselves. As much as us fans, we can look at it and go, yeah, they're not playing too well. Brendan knows they've got a big task ahead of them. And if they can deliver it, it's a big prize. It's the next stage. Moves us on to 11 points. That's us into knockout. With some points to play for after that as well, of course.
Yeah, absolutely.
It could get even more exciting. But yeah, he needs to keep the guys focused, doesn't he? He needs to make sure they all know their job. They're putting in 100% here. Even if the Scottish media will believe that some of our players like Arne Engels aren't up to standard, you're just like, geez, what football he's watching? Another goal for boy, another good performance. He's made the Belgian national team, but yeah, Celtic have apparently, I don't know, been done over in signing him. I think he's been a cracking signing for us. Best year's definitely ahead of him. It looks like a guy that fits a model.
It's so one-dimensional the way they're viewing it, though, Lawrence. They're looking at his price tag. They're looking at the midfield player who left and saying, well, this is a like-for-like replacement. He's not. He's not Matt O'Reilly. He's his own man. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Arne Engels is worth more than what he was worth when we bought him, because he's now a full international with Champions League experience. And he's not just participating in these games. He's actually contributing. 3 assists in 5 games so far in the Champions League.
We've taken Matt Riley out that midfield, and I would say our midfield this year is stronger than last year's.
Mm-hmm.
It shows what a good job, Tosh and team over at recruitment have done. Brendan's obviously developing players. Paulo Bernardo, Portuguese under-21 captain, absolutely solid, always contributes. And the steal of the season, Luke McKibben, what's he worth? What do we buy him for, $1 million? What's that? That's worth more than 7 or 8 Rangers players. It's the midfield's absolutely outstanding for us this season. It looks as if spending that bit extra in Engels is taking us to a different level.
Yeah, it has. And both Engels and Ida have been criticised by certain quarters throughout the season, Lawrence, and it'll probably continue to happen. On the one hand, you look at the way that Celtic are able to finance these deals, it's with their own cash. And we go out there and we have this player recruitment model and strategy which works, because when you look at the way the club is run in a business sense, it's run very well. It's run very, very well over the last 3 decades. And you ask yourself the question, why is it that people look at these signings, they're looking for faults constantly? Celtic have brought quality into the Scottish game to the tune of £26 million with an outlay over 3 players. Why not embrace that as bringing quality to the Scottish game rather than constantly criticising them? We're going to be talking through what you think the starting 11 is going to be. I will not be at the game, as you could probably tell, but I will be watching it on the big screen at Barra's Art and Design. Are you going to join us, Lawrence?
I'll try and go over, mate. Yes, I think I will try and get in and watch it. I've just got a couple of wee things to tidy up, some contracts and stuff to get out the door, but be doing my best to get the clear of those and go over. You've seen the background, the Urban Cultures, Neil Lennon signed Northern Ireland top that I think we're going to be laughing at some point. So big thanks to Tommy for that. And he's got a book he wants us all to sign. Some fellow wrote a book in the Celtic jersey.
I've heard about that. That.
It's going to be they're even putting jerseys and tribute jerseys out. Jeez, it's going to be updated every 6 months, I think.
Well, this is the thing. If anybody's had even a browse through this book, I've got one over here because if they send it out to somebody, it's my last one, other than one on the shelf. In the early days, the jerseys didn't change very often. So, the early part of the club's history is covered over the first wee bit of the book. And then, near the end of the book, what you see the publishers doing is fitting 3 jerseys onto a page and all that, because we are releasing 3 and 4 jerseys every season. And if I was to revise that, and it only came out, when did it come out? 2 Christmases ago. There's probably 12 jerseys.
But there's things like remember just the whited out top, the white and green hoops. There was just not match one, but you'd want to include that. That was a cracking top. That should have been a home jersey. That was stunning. Yeah.
But even if we did it in a commemorative game, we go over and play Sligo Rovers. Why not just wear the jersey there, and then it becomes even more sought after because we've actually worn it in a game, like we did for the first. Right, the Shamrock top, the famous Shamrock top. It was called the political jersey at the time.
Belfast Celtic game, yeah. Right. Who wore it? Who wore it in the game?
Belfast Celtic wore it. Right, and that started a rumour that Belfast Celtic gifted Celtic the jerseys, which was incorrect. What happened was Celtic went over there with 2 sets of kits. Belfast Celtic wore the Shamrock top, Celtic wore the hoops, and then we didn't wear the Shamrock top for some time after that, but it was Celtic's Umbro jersey. And that's another kit. If they were to reintroduce it, they couldn't make enough of them, Lawrence.
It was great, big, the white collar and the green collar on it, and Big Fallon being able to tell us, oh yeah, your white collars, that was for the reserves. Mm-hmm. Just information like that. Just I guess he's a player there, and the kind of information was lost. But thank God for guys like Big John being able to go, yeah, that means it was a reserve kit if you had the white collar. This
shows you, Lawrence, there is always something new to learn about Celtic. No matter how many books you've read and how many archives you've trawled, there's always something new to learn. And that's what I love when I'm working on one of these books, although I've taken a back seat from that for the time being because I'm too busy with Axom. John McVeigh is in on the YouTube. Hail, hail. Great to see you, John. Haven't seen you popping up for a while. The Celts are here at 7:30 in Thailand. Never been to Thailand. Quite fancy it.
Thai Tim's, mate. Raymond Gormley from Blantyre, God rest him. But yeah, big connection there now. Was the work he done over there?
Brilliant work that he did. And we've also got Jedi 67, or Jedi perhaps 67. I've taken the rest of the week off to recover from my celebrations. He's feeling confident. Jungle Lion comes in also. When were the Celtic favourites away from home in the Champions League game before? The only point of caution I would say, right, is there were 2 occasions where we've gone into away games feeling quite buoyant in recent times, and we were humbled. Now, I know Dynamo Zagreb are not the kind of same level an opponent as, let's say, Real Madrid or Borussia Dortmund, but they're a wounded animal, Lawrence, and I think that I got a sense of Brendan Rodgers. It wasn't a big Nostradamus prediction, but we were talking about the fact that all this talk of crisis will not affect the focus of Brendan Rodgers going into this game. Yes, they do have first picks out injured. Yes, they're on a bad run of form, so the confidence might be quite low. However, sometimes that's when a team is at its most dangerous.
Listen, they'll maybe look at the video evidence from the weekend and see the amount of chances Hibs got. You know what? You know, if we gave that amount of chances to Zagreb, I'm sure they'd take a few. So, yeah, 100% be focused on the job we've got to do. You know, Brendan talks about it, Ange talked about it before him. You know, you've got to manage your part of it properly. You know, I think play like we did away to Atlanta, just play it tighter. You know, look for the break. There's a possibility of 3 points, but it's not a given at this level, mate. You know, there's no easy games in the Champions League. You know,
the big thing for me yesterday,
points in a group. You know what I mean?
You know, we probably picked up a point unexpectedly against Atalanta. You then look at Bruges. I remember a lot of people predicting before a ball was kicked, we'll get a win against Bruges. We didn't. You then look at Young Boys, and people are almost taking that as a given because their form so far has been really poor, and it's at Celtic Park. Acsom said yesterday we don't want to go into that game as a must-win, and I absolutely get it. So if we go out there tonight, and it sounds a wee bit safe to say this, and take anything from the game, Lawrence, we're still in a really good position going against Young Boys of Bern. And I remember, did they even still get called that? I'm not sure. Names change over the years. I mean, Dynamo Zagreb, Croatia Zagreb. The first time we played them, I believe, in a competitive match was back in 1963. We beat them 3-0 at home. It was a European Cup, Winners' Cup, second round. We've spoken about this game before because Big Yogi Hughes scored the third goal. Stevie Chalmers scored the first 2. And Dynamo Zagreb, when you look at the team that they had, there's not many kind of like household names. You then look at the return leg, we go away to Dynamo Zagreb, who beat us 2-1, and the goal was scored by Bobby Murdoch. And you can see the starts and the beginnings and the green shoots of a team developing at Celtic Park prior to Jock's team coming to the football club. But then if you go back to 98, these are games I remember really well. There were so many rumours flying about Croatia Zagreb's big striker, Marko Viduka. And then we obviously got them in the cup. And the Celtic team, where we beat them 1-0 at home and back in 1998, was as follows. Johnny Gold in goals. We had Tom Boyd, Jackie McNamara, Mark Reaper and Alan Stubbs. Larson, Burley, Bratback, Donnelly, Lambert and Blinker. And Darren Jackson came off the bench to replace Bratback and scored 5 minutes later. We won the game at home, of course. And Prozanetsky and Viduka lined up for Croatia Zagreb, who absolutely scalped us 3-0 away from home. The Scotland on Sunday described Celtic's performance as the worst display in Europe by any Scottish team ever. Things haven't changed when it comes to the press, have they? I mean, surely there's been a worse performance than that. I mean, I remember Neuchâtel Xamax, which I'm pretty sure was a worse performance than that.
I'm sure some teams get beat 12-4 or something in aggregate. You know, surely that would be worse. But things like that. But perhaps not a team that are any longer with us. But yeah, they want to sell headlines, and you know, we're pretty down in Celtic, so nothing changes. Yeah, nothing changes with the press. But I mean, that Zagreb game, I remember at home, Viduka turning, I think it was Reaper inside out down at the Rangers end and rattling one off the post. It was like, you could tell he was going to be a player. You know, you thought that boy is decent. And we were lucky enough to get him, although there was a bit of a delayed start to his career with Celtic, wasn't there?
There absolutely was, and even at that time, I've got a big pile of Celtic fanzines in front of me there, and I was looking through them fairly recently with the way that they covered the Marco Viduka scenario, and obviously the press were the exact same, whereby this was a player who was suffering from mental health stress at that time, and it was only 1998. It wasn't 50 years ago, Lawrence, and the way that it was dealt with and treated was thankfully a lot different from how it would be treated nowadays, Lawrence. If a player was not mentally functioning in a way that he felt able to actually come to a football club he'd just signed for, and he'd gone AWOL, etc., I'm pretty sure we'd have been a wee bit more sympathetic than we were back then.
But yeah, definitely. I mean, he just left a war zone, didn't he? He was playing under tremendous pressure, and I thought he was a decent player for us. Wish he'd stayed longer. The deal to Leeds wasn't the best. The sell-on part of it, somehow we wrote it, the sell-on percentage ended up not working for us. But, if we'd had him and Larsson for a bit longer, been cracking. But then again, you might not get Big Chris. It's kind of sliding doors moment, isn't it? If you'd kept Viduka, no Chris Sutton.
The big thing, again, listening to Martin O'Neill over the last couple of years, opening up about his time at Celtic, reading his book, he uses that as the kind of sliding doors moment. Lawrence, he would have kept Mark Viduka. He would have kept him at the football club. Viduka refused to come back for pre-season training. And that's another thing. I don't think there's a lot of Celtic fans don't look back too fondly on him because of the way it ended, the way that he treated the club. We take it personally as Celtic fans, don't we? And so he just flipped to £6 million and brought in Chris Sutton, and the rest they say is history. Chris Sutton was massive to our success, and it did kickstart off a period. And I know the domination in terms of football club, the roots had already began, with the takeover with Fergus McCann, as you've quite rightly said before, Lawrence. But in terms of on the football park, that was the domination starting under O'Neill, and Chris Sutton was a massive part of it.
You talk about kind of roots of domination. I mean, you talked about the Croatia Zagreb game, and John Hughes Jr. was on here, so that's the game that gave rise to the song. But that was Kelly Kids when you looked at what Man United had done. After the Combination Cup, getting rid of a lot of experienced players and giving youth a chance.
Yeah,
it takes a while to build to this success. You're not going to get it instant overnight, and I think we found that with Fergus, it takes us a while to build a solid foundation that would allow us to go on and dominate. Almost a quarter of a century. Absolutely dominate. And there's other teams that look at us and try to, buy success in a season. It's not how it's done. You need that solid foundation, don't you? You need the good business processes in the background. You need Tosh and team, the guys, whoever that's in recruitment, doing their part to it. It's not something that comes overnight. You need to do the hard yards. You'll remember, when Fergus took over, 5-year plan that didn't involve winning trophies.
I know.
That wasn't one of his milestones.
Yeah, thank God we did though. And one of the guys that was in that team was again Jackie Mack, and I keep mentioning him because he's going to be joining us tonight. A room full of Celtic fans, big free event, big screen, doing something a wee bit different to cover the game. We will still be covering it as normal here. Chris McAway and Ryan Pearce and Sean Connolly will be covering the game as normal, so tune in. We do go live every single day. The live stream at 12:30 was born out of the frustration of COVID and being locked up in a room going stir crazy. I think they call it cabin fever.
Before COVID, did we not? Did we not kick off before COVID? Because I was coming through before COVID. Stephen Nolan was on. Yeah, was it long before?
It wasn't long before. And then the daily stuff, Lawrence.
It wasn't long before lockdown, was it? Maybe no. COVID had started, but there wasn't a lockdown.
That's right. So the COVID had kicked in, yeah. And so it was out of necessity because we have to talk about Celtic. We've got to talk about Celtic. If I bump into you, Lawrence, what do we talk about? We don't talk about share prices and politics, well, sometimes, but it's Celtic. It's Celtic we talk about. And so what happened, I'm just going to give everybody a wee update because obviously there is a lot of things happening in the background. And Paul McLean, I think you might be talking about Axom. Totally ignored it back in the day, but love watching it now. You might be talking about Game of Thrones for all I know, but let's use this as an example. We're finding new people coming on board all the time. But now, if you look at the landscape of how people digest their content, you now have various versions of Celtic media such as this going out on a live stream basis. And quite frankly, I look at it now and I say, right, this looks like a Zoom call that you would have back in the deepest, darkest days of lockdown. Therefore, we're going to mix it up and we're going to have something very special in 2025. It's going to still be the Axom Bulletin. You're still going to see the familiar faces like Lawrence Conley and all the other guys, hopefully some girls as well. And it will still be on air at 12:30, but we are going to completely shift everything in terms of fan media, Celtic fan media, and we're going to do it in such a way that it's just going to increase the quality. So watch this space. Can't give too much away because invariably quite a few others will completely try and replicate it. Green Yonder, here we go. Good day for staying in. And Jay Conley, Jay Larkin, I haven't forgotten about you, mate. Aye, passes an hour or so. It does, and it will be more than an hour as well. We're completely up in the tempo. Jungle Line, always a pleasure to hear from you. A few nutters from Zagreb. Be careful out there, everyone. Yes, we've had messages from the SLO. The travelling Celtic support we've spoken about. I think in terms of Acsom, I might be wrong. Deck might be going. Kevin McCluskey's going to the game, isn't he?
Oh, no, I think Kev was going to, but couldn't make it. I think Kev was going to.
Kevin McCluskey, right.
Yeah. Natasha will probably be there. You know, she's always somewhere globe-trotting around about the world, only with to do Celtic. So,
yeah, just stay safe. There's a lot of messages coming out in relation to, obviously, the conduct of certain, I wouldn't even call them ultras, because there is a differentiation between an ultra group and a group of hooligans. And I think we're talking more hooligans, a hooligan element. So be safe, anybody who's going out to Zagreb. On the point as well, you're sitting in a bar there, Lawrence. I've not been there for a couple of months, but you are collecting some items from time to time, and it is looking beautifully decorated. That jersey that you mentioned before, just to bring everybody up to date on that aspect of Axom, we've always focused on the charitable roots of the football club, and we tried to do our bit. When we realised there was a community within the Axom group, we thought to ourselves, every year we will raise some much needed funds for charities, and we've helped the homeless, we've helped St Mary's, the birthplace of Celtic, we've helped mental health charities and kids who are underprivileged, particularly at Christmas. We've done all that over the last few years with the help of people who actually tune in. And we had a drive 2 years ago, moving into last year, where we were collecting Celtic jerseys, old jerseys from Celtic fans who were donating them to us. Some of them were just replica jerseys, beautifully maintained by their owners. Others were even match worn. And that one there looks to be a match worn signed Neil Lennon International jersey. It was handed in by one of our frequent commenters who goes by a pseudonym, but you've blown his identity all over Axom, Lawrence. And if you do want to contribute, then please do. Every single month we do a gig. There's a charitable element to that. Sometimes it's 500 quid. Sometimes it's 1,000 quid. We auction something off for £3,000, and all that money at the moment goes to wee Jamie Tierney, who's a wee guy who is fighting a life-limiting illness called Duchenne muscular dystrophy. And there's a clock ticking. His family worked so hard to pay for the treatment, which is not on the NHS, and he has to fly all over the world to get it, and we're trying to help him out. But we're going to do things a wee bit different this year. Normally we have a charity weekender, but with everything else, we need to freshen it up a wee bit. So in 2025, we're going to have a big, massive charity ball in Glasgow, and we're going to keep everybody abreast of the developments here. Some cracking guests lined up for that, and an amazing host as well. And it's not me that's hosting it. I'll do the Q&A with the Celtic players, but the compare for the night, top drawer. John Mullane, all about, how do you pronounce that? Am I pronouncing that right? Mullane. I want to make sure I'm doing it. Or Mullen. Yeah. Right, let me know, John. All about the main man, Brendan, giving us our name and pride back in Europe. Elite. We could probably debate for an entire show whether or not Brendan Rodgers is elite. Jim Orr likes to talk about that terminology. I'll tell you something, what he's doing this season, though, Lawrence, is he's having a proper go at it in terms of the European progress that we spoke about on day one when he arrived back at the club.
You know, when Brendan comes back, he'd have looked at his record before and think, what have I got to beat? Well, I've got to improve in Europe, was obvious. Probably the way we're going, he's probably looked at that Invincible season and go, well, I've done an Invincible season, but can I do it? But I just might. But the big thing, you know, not just Brendan, but, you know, I think you're getting back to Strachan before you know, 2 last 16 finishes in the Champions League.
Sensational.
What, he had to third the wage bill while doing that.
Yeah.
So he lost some outstanding players. Unfortunately, get moved off the wage bill. But to deliver what he delivered was outstanding from Gordon. And I remember being, taking AC Milan to extra time in the San Siro, being there with my wife, and we could.
We know how to treat our other halves, Lawrence.
Oh, mate,
taking the missus to Milan.
Milan Hilton, mate.
Did you mention the game, or was that just a wee surprise?
That's where we're going. So night in London, 2 nights in Paris, I think 4 in Milan, and then 2 nights in Paris, 1 in London, back up the road.
Brilliant.
Decent enough trip, but we just did a penalty in extra time. If you remember the free kick, it's and they obviously went on to win. Gordon Strachan could do that with McManus and Caldwell as centre halves. That was his partnership. It shows, a good manager, a good game plan. It can take you far in the game.
Absolutely. I mean, the big thing I always go back to reading Strachan's book, which is on the shelf there, was talking about dilemmas, and we are going to work our way through the selection dilemmas, good dilemmas that facing Brendan tonight. There was a dilemma faced by Gordon Strachan when he took the job. And that dilemma was that when he was at Coventry City, he had Craig Bellamy and John Hartson, and he liked the way that they were able to link up. Bellamy had the pace and the work rate, and the big man had obviously the strength and the prowess in front of goal. I mean, he's one of only 31, and I keep saying 31, Celtic players to score 100+ goals for Celtic. Big John's in that group. And Strachan had the opportunity to buy Craig Bellamy. And he speaks about it in his book. And I've spoken to him over the last couple of years about it, Lawrence. And the outlay in terms of the transfer fee and the wages would have been such that not much other business would have been done. And what Gordon Strachan was able to do in that pre-season is he brought in Artur Boric initially on a loan, and then we made the deal permanent because Arsenal were about to steal him from under our noses. Yeah. Nakamura was plucked out of Italian football, I think, Reggiana. And then the striker we went out and bought was Magic Zarowski, a player who, he scored 20 goals in that season. He was a joint top goal scorer. So for the price of Bellamy, he was able to go out there, Lawrence, and get Boric, who, was a little-known goalkeeper at the time, who went on to become, in Gordon's words, world-class. Nakamura, who scored 2 of the most memorable European goals in Celtic's history, as well as various other goals against the likes of Rangers or, wrapping up the title against Killie. And then Zarowski, who was a solid goal-scoring striker. And he was able to do that. Was any of the 3 of those players at the time that we signed them as box office as Bellamy? No chance. But they were as effective as anyone.
Yeah, totally. Nakamura, what a player. I think Boric is probably the only keeper at Celtic I would say, we won the league because of the keeper. In the season, he was just out of this world. And Zarowski was solid enough. I think he never hit the heights he tipped before he got to us, but he was solid enough. 20 goals is decent. But Boric and Nakamura, absolutely outstanding players for us. I suppose it's a tough choices. Some clubs would just go out and maybe buy all 4 and put themselves in financial difficulty, and who knows where it leads to. But it's a tough choice for Gordon, and he built an amazing squad while third in a wage bill. We had absolutely huge stars for us, like Baldy, Sutton, guys that unfortunately we could no longer afford if we were to be run well as a business. And two last 16s, you really can't argue with it.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean the record is sensational. When you look at the manner in which we were knocked out, you're talking about a game that we take AC Milan right into extra time. Yeah. And where Kaka scores a goal, doesn't he?
It's good beating. Yeah.
It's a game that we don't look at too often because it ended in disappointment. But if you were to look back across the two matches, just how close we were to progressing beyond the last 16. And it was hardly on a shoestring budget, but it wasn't on the same kind of budget that we had seen previously with Martin O'Neill. My lifetime supporting Celtic in Europe, Lawrence, You know, in my younger days, we didn't progress past the second round, you know, and you think about Geminal Ekeren, and you think about Young Boys of Bern and Neuchâtel's, and every so often you would get a slightly bigger team like Sporting Lisbon or Borussia Dortmund. One of the high points for me in that period, you know, the 90s, if you like, was the Cologne game where they beat us 2-0 away from home.
Yeah, John Collins double. Oh, Collins was amazing at home, eh?
Collins, Craney and McStay. And you know what John Collins said to me last week? He said that he was never officially credited with that goal. It went down as an OG.
You're joking.
No.
So that's the one he picked up. It looked as if it was going out for a...
And he does the shimmy. Yeah, yep.
Came right up the... Absolutely, what a work rate he had.
Oh,
John Collins.
He was class. He was class. And that's the kind of European pedigree that we had during that time. And you then move on. And by the way, you know, it's not as though I'm
don't forget Tiger Tim.
Oh, Tiger Tim, yeah. That was a shame. That was a shame. I wouldn't mind Tiger Tim coming on. Does anybody have a contact for Tiger Tim Stevens? I want him on This Is Axom.
That would be cracking, mate.
He'd be a great interview.
Oh, can we just have a moment's silence? Biggest cheery night, you know.
That's like, I guess nowadays, Lawrence, that's like a breach of social media. Whatever it is you've got, come on, man, just have a laugh at it. But yes, I would like to have Tiger Tim on the show, so let us know you've got a contact. So we didn't do much, right? And I know that Billy McNeil had some good times in Europe as a manager previously, but certainly not second time round. It didn't really work out for us. Then, obviously, the Brady and the Carey thing. Tommy Burns, when I look at Tommy Burns' European record, I enjoyed a moment or two in Europe under Tommy, but there were few and far between.
Tommy brought back the European friendlies. That was the first time I've seen Prozinecki. You know, he's playing for Barcelona. Tommy brought back the friendlies. I think Jock had done that. I think Jock even done it in the 67 season, didn't he?
Did I?
Against the Eastern European team, he had a friendly just to get, so as they could see what it was like to play a team from that part of the world.
Makes sense.
You know, I think that's something that we could probably do going forward. You know, we're not in Europe in the last stages. Why can't we squeeze in a game against top level opposition in a game or two a season if we're out of Europe?
Maybe even throw on a season ticket. Imagine that.
Yeah. But listen, it was great when Tommy brought him back. Came back to see some real cracking teams.
Can you remember, though, right, you've mentioned Barca. Can you remember us playing Real Madrid away from home under Tommy Burns in a friendly?
No, I don't remember that. Probably because I wasn't at the game.
One of those, and I think they beat us 2-0. One of those games that has kind of gone under the radar as the years have progressed. Let us know in the comment section if indeed you were there. So not much in terms to think back on under Tommy in Europe, and then we move on, and then you've got obviously Wim Jansen. Again, we were focusing on Joe Venglos, nothing in Europe. Wim Jansen, John Barnes. So Martin O'Neill comes in, and that's where it all changes. That's where it all changes in Europe. And we get into our third European final. There are other campaigns in the Champions League where we're getting 9 points in a group.
Ajax away. What a performance from his Ajax.
Tremendous.
You know, that really puts back in the map. You know, if you look at one game, you're kind of going, oh, man. But then made us an absolute fortress at Celtic Park. You remember all of our cans celebrating getting a draw at Celtic Park. You know, Bayern, one of the top teams in Europe, absolutely celebrating, get out with a point. And
away from home, Magnus Hedman played for Celtic and we got beat 2-1, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
So Martin O'Neill, absolutely amazing. Strachan does it, as you say, on a different type of budget. Neil Lennon had these famous nights in Europe. And then you come to Brendan and Ange. And I'm not ignoring Ronnie Dyler, but our European record was rotten under Ronnie. I remember the Inter Milan. That was a bit of a high point, 3 each, but we probably should have won that, Craig Gordon. But you look at Rodgers and Ange, two managers who I rate up there in my lifetime, right? They're up there with Martin O'Neill and Tommy, because Tommy's Tommy. And but they didn't do a great deal, Brendan first time round or Ange in Europe. So now this is, for me, it's been a turning point this season, Lawrence, because Brendan didn't. You can look back on the Man City or maybe the Anderlecht, individual performances, but what campaigns would you focus on and say that was a good European campaign under Brendan before?
I think you can see he's progressed as a manager. If you look at Brendan and his approach in Europe, you know, he had his is that pragmatic enough kind of comment to the press for you. You can see, you know, Atlanta away here, you're thinking this is definitely a slight change in how we're playing. Not wholesale, but it was changed to get a result, and it got us a result away from home. So I think he's progressing as a manager. You know, that's something that'll probably keep Brendan here for longer than planned. If he can see that the team's progressing and himself individually is progressing as a manager, I think there's a chance of him staying for more than the 3 years he's promised.
I would love that.
About him leaving today.
I would love that, yeah. Remember when he first came in and he was talking about getting emptied? He's going to be here for 3 years unless he gets emptied. He was asked about it again. He says there's still a long way to go. When he's asked about Kasper Schmeichel's contract, he's very non-committal because, he's in the here and now. Monty has guessed who the host is going to be for a charity ball. I did ask him, Monty, but, he's busy. He's living a billionaire's lifestyle, obviously, so he's a busy man.
I was at a thing for the 10:30 charity a few months ago at Kings Park Hotel, and he donated the pound coin.
Craig White
came in a jewellery box, and it was the actual pound coin. I ended up going for 600 quid for charity, but the actual pound coin.
You winded me up. You are winding me up.
That was one of the auction prizes at 10:30 charity, authenticated by Mr. Craig White, the pound coin.
Where is he now? I've not actually read. I've not read his book yet, but I've heard that it's very insightful. Here we go. J. Conley, J. Larkin. Of course, market dictated by money going on. So obviously a lot of confident fans among us. I still think a draw, but getting more confident the nearer the game is. Yeah, you do get a wee bit of confidence from the fact that there's injuries, but Brendan will not allow that to happen. Dynamo Zagreb, of course, are sitting in 23rd position, Celtic in 20th. And underneath us are Feyenoord and Club Brugge. So it's tight. It's tight in amongst that. And then Real Madrid, PSG are underneath that lot. So it just shows you how this has progressed. When you're looking at the top end, it's Liverpool, Inter Milan, Barcelona. You're thinking of the European endeavours we've had against these teams: Liverpool, Inter Milan, Barcelona, Borussia Dortmund, Atalanta this season, Bayer Leverkusen, Arsenal. I remember Donati's goal against them, and Monaco. I don't think I've ever played Monaco.
Donati sold pretty soon after.
Yeah,
not much the manager knew about it, but
much to the annoyance of the management team. Absolutely right. So let's start off then by talking about the team launch. Joe Hart leaves the football club after 3 seasons, and the 3 seasons he's been a serial winner. Not only that, he's shown a real willingness. I don't even know if it's a willingness or if it just happens kind of gradually and naturally to become part of this thing called Celtic. He lives and breathes it while he's at the football club. One of the guys who's got no skin in the game when he joins, but he leaves as a Celtic fan. And he was going to be extremely hard to replace. Of course he was, right? Not just the ability, but the leadership qualities. And Brendan Rodgers went out and brought Kasper Schmeichel into the football club. And I remember, and I'll need to look back on maybe the day we signed him, a lot of people were unsure of bringing Kasper Schmeichel to Celtic. But what an impact he's made. And again, you just watch him against Hibs. Man of the match, Lawrence, at the weekend.
Yeah. Listen, Schmeichel comes in. He's older than Joe Hart. I don't think his career hit the heights of Joe Hart's, in my opinion. But more suited to Brendan's style of football. I think the fact that we brought in the keeper from Villa as well, there looked to be a development plan there, didn't there? Because you're thinking, how much top level does Schmeichel have left in him? But when he's been called upon, he's not let us down. You struggle to think of a howler he's made. Every keeper will have a howler in them. But so far, been outstanding for us. He really suits the style of football. When you see him interviewed, much like Joe, he represents the club extremely well. So, we're lucky that we can get players of his quality here. And it looks like the club's got a bit of a bit of forethought by signing another keeper that we can bring on. Not that we've seen him in the first team yet, but maybe towards the end of the season we'll see a bit of him. But yeah, Schmeichel's been outstanding for us. And his style suits the way we play.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, you see a number of occasions where he's halfway up our own half and he's taking the ball. And what's happening there is the centre-halves are giving him the ball and he's got the ability at that point, Lawrence, to find a pass, whereas I don't think Joe Hart had that. I'll tell you, Scott Bain's no bad at passing the ball, but that isn't going to get him in the team. So Kasper Schmeichel has made an unbelievable difference to this team. I also think there's a mentality there with Schmeichel where he wants more success. And it's, listen, it means a lot to us as Celtic supporters. But I don't think it's just about coming up and winning a few cups here and there for him. I think he wants to progress in Europe as well. So the Sinisalo thing is quite interesting insofar as the fact we've not seen him playing yet, really, in a competitive game. He's not made his debut yet, Lawrence. And I think there needs to become an opportunity. There needs to be an opportunity for him to get some game time, because you just never know over a campaign where you're competing in 4 different tournaments when you're going to need a goalie unexpectedly to step in. So it'd be good to see him getting some game time. And I would have expected by this stage for him to have a game or two.
I think maybe Brendan, when I said earlier, Brendan's targets would be improving the Invincible season. Over the last 4 goals domestically. I think maybe Brendan's got this target and that he wants this to be another Invincible season, to be, to lose as few goals as possible. So I think that's maybe where we'll struggle to see him getting game time. I'd love to see what we've bought. Maybe we have a European friendly towards the end of the season and he's the keeper. I don't know. Maybe it's one for next season, we'll see. If Brendan achieves his goal of another Invincible season, could you imagine losing less than 10 goals in a season? No, about just over a third of the way through, we've lost 4. So if we keep that up, it's about 10 goals we'd lose.
Well, the goal difference is 40 at the moment, plus 40 in the league. It is an incredible record so far. I love just tapping into the comment section and randomly pulling something up, because I don't know what the conversation is, but apparently Glenn Michael is nearly 100 years of age, which is just a tremendous bit of trivia. Thanks very much for sharing that. A couple of years younger.
No,
Paladin older?
Yeah, Paladin. It's got to be older than Glenn Michael.
I met him once. Glenn Michael, that is, at Butlins. Daniel F., we need to go for the win in all 3 games. Even if we won and qualify tonight, we still need to be gathering points as it affects who you play in the stand. Absolutely. So it's all about the seedings within the playoff section as well. So it's a good point you make. Celt, here we go. We've got a question. We don't have many questions coming in. Ask your questions, anything. Ask anything. We'll answer it. Celt, which player has the biggest influence tonight? Lawrence, I'm going to ask you, which player has the biggest influence this evening?
I think we talked about this beginning of the season, who's going to be the most important player, and I said Cal Mack. Mm-hmm. It is, everything goes through Cal. He sets the tone for everything about the club. Yep. Captain in the club, you're expecting him to lead us, and to get the players playing to the level, making demands upon them. I think, if Callum plays well, we'll play well.
I agree with that. And I know it might be a sitting on the fence style answer, but he's the man that makes us tick. I do think we've got some really good leadership in the squad now. You've got guys like Luke McCowan, who I don't expect to start tonight. Lawrence, who's a captain in his own right.
Last time I was on, we were talking about McCowan, and I can't remember the game we're looking at. I said, look, he should be starting on his form. And look at the game he started. Look at, I might say it's Ross County, but what performance he put in. And Engels cost more than him, and so did Bernardo. Hatate's he's a guy that unlocks people. Well, look what McCowan's doing when he's on the park. What does he have to do to get a starting position? Because he's getting the assists, he's getting the goals, he's controlling games from midfield. It's, can he do it at Champions League level? Putting those kind of performances, but you're not going to know unless he gets a chance.
Right. It's an interesting discussion because we're so strong in the midfield now, Lawrence, that it's not just a case of saying, there's your 5 midfielders and this is where they rank. I don't think that works. I think what happens is every game you go into, you look at the midfield and say, right, which midfield do we need for this particular game? And there's going to be many games when McCowan is that guy who gets the nod. But for a game like tonight, I'm looking at the tendency last season for Rodgers to give Bernardo game time in the Champions League.
I would start Bernardo McGregor.
For me, they're the 2 definites. I think the 3rd position is the one that's up for debate. That's the dilemma, right?
Yeah.
McCowan, you could make a case for McCowan today. Hatate, the playmaker, the game changer, the guy who can thread a ball through the eye of a needle and create a chance for Kyogo, and it could be absolutely pivotal. So absolutely, you could have the discussion and the argument to say Hatate's the man. And then you've got Engels, who has come under fire, but in the Champions League has performed really well. So that's the jersey for me
that
is the biggest question mark tonight?
Totally. I know Engels has got the physicality, I suppose, over the other two, and that's something Brendan talked about. The team needed to improve that aspect. And I think Brendan might start Engels, but for me, I'd be starting McKeown. Give him his chance. I think we'll change two of the midfielders anyway, but I'd start with a more solid platform at the back, Bernardo and McGregor, and see what McKeown can produce for us. Because, Hatate can thread the ball through, but so McKeown's shown he can do it as well. It's kind of do it at this level. He needs to get the chance, I think. I think he's never been less than 7 out of 10 when he's played for us. In his performances, he's got goals, he's got assists, he's controlled games for midfield. I think it's time.
Are you going McGregor, Bernardo, McKeown? What you've got with that three? You've got 3 captains.
Yeah,
I was going to say that. So Bernardo, Portugal under 21s. McKeown came as the captain of Dundee, and obviously McGregor is our El Capitano. So that's your midfield 3. Let us know in the comment section how you would go for it tonight. I am going to disagree with Lawrence. I'm going for Engels over McKeown, and on the bench, the weapon is Hatate. I think Hatate is a weapon on the bench. I think the selection, a big part of that will be the fact that it's an away day in Europe as well. There's also John Francis, Pope Paul McKeown, asking Taylor Obaye. By the way, what a man, what a picture that is on the avatar, the bold one. Chalky.
Socrates.
Chocaldinho. Give us more of the chalky names. Bernardo or Engels. Tonight I go Engels and Bernardo. Hatate's on the bench for me, John. And when it comes to Taylor Obaye, that is the next point of discussion. Let us know in the comment section who plays left back tonight. Lawrence, I'm going to ask you the question. Who do you pick?
For this one, mate, I'd probably go with Taylor. I'd go with a bit more experience here. Baye's impressed since he came in, but I just get a feeling that Taylor's experience, it could be needed here. And he does contribute a lot of assists, but he's got the experience at this level. I'd be pulling him. Yeah, Taylor and over Baye. It's a tough decision, but I just think Taylor's experience will be key here. And I think Brendan will do that as well. Taylor brings a lot to the team. No, he's not signed a new contract yet, which is a bit of a worry. But a number of managers has decided that he's a left back. He's seen off a number of challengers. Best left back in Brazil, apparently. He's seen off. A guy that some media have been saying should be called up for Brazil, even though he's Argentinian. But yeah, I'd go with Taylor in the left back. Taylor, AJ, Carter Vickers, and mate, his skills are trusty.
Right, that takes us on to the next part of the discussion. Now, on the left back situation, you're right, and we've got to mention it. He wins best left back in Serie A in Brazil, and his name is Alexandro Bernabei. He comes back to Celtic for the 1st of January, and we decide at that point, what do we do with this boy? Because he obviously showed a huge amount of potential for us to have a £3.75 million outlay, make him the first Argentinian ever to play for Celtic. A lot was made of that at the time. Didn't kick on. Lawrence couldn't really establish himself in the side. The big debate, some Axom contributors say we need to give him another chance. Others say we've seen enough. And you strike while the iron is hot and you get the money and you run. I'm in the latter camp. Where are you?
Yeah, I'd definitely have a look at him when he comes back. We've got, hopefully we know if Greg's going to sign a contract with him or not. No, we've got young Montgomery. Yeah. So we could be looking for 2 left backs. I wouldn't be rushing about the door, but if somebody comes in with 12 million, you're probably going, we'll take that. That's too big an offer for us to say no.
Has that figure been quoted somewhere?
Oh, I think they're talking about 8 or 9, but
that's bonkers. But 8 or 9 million for Bernabei is mental money, and if anybody wants to pay that, you take it.
But he's putting in the performances, mate. In Brazil, he's putting in the performances there. He's improved his game. Why would Brendan not look at for a couple of weeks when he comes back and say,
because he's seen him before.
For us. Maybe some players improve. You've got to have I've seen him before. Yeah, he can get better. Was Mulgrew better when he came back second time round? I'd say he was.
Oh, 100%. He had to go away to develop. I think this is slightly different. I mean, I remember a similar conversation about Jack Hendry. Remember? And he went over to Belgium and he done so well, and people were saying, bring him back.
Well, Jack was with us. We did bring him back. Jack was with Celtic before.
Yeah, I'm talking
well,
when we wandered out.
We didn't have that kind of clause in his contract to bring him back. I think people were happy when we signed the deal, but then, yeah, he done so well in Belgium. They're like, geez, we should have put a clause in to bring him back.
And they flipped it and made a lot of money off him.
Yeah. Look, it's one of those ones. I think it was the pressure of playing at Celtic that got on top of him. He had a couple of misplaced passes, lots of great games. Fans seem to be on his back, and I just don't think mentally he was strong enough to handle it. If you look at likes of Liam Scales, the amount of pressure he's played under for at Celtic, misplaced passes, shouldn't be in the team. There's got to be somebody better. But he showed the kind of mental fortitude to come through that.
Tony Ralston and James Forrest are probably in the same camp.
So some of that's maybe, well, he was playing games because we didn't have anyone else fit. He was didn't that, but he was still under the pressure. He was still must have been known that every Celtic pub the discussions were going on. Who would you replace? Or Scales? Got to get better centre half in. Last year definitely established himself as a good squad player. And this season, I'd say he's probably been our best centre half.
Does he play tonight?
Yeah, I'd play him tonight, mate. I'd play him tonight. I think he's been our best centre half. He's a goal threat. He's shown that. He can pick a pass. It's going to be interesting long term who wins that. Him or Trusty? Trusty's been brought in for a lot of money. But has he given us as much so far as Liam Scales has? Not yet. And you might just say, not for me, he's not. And it might just be, settling in. He needs the game time. But I think Scales has been better than him this season. Yeah, I don't know how you've been. I'm one of the guys who we need to look at replacing Liam Scales, and probably because you don't like to go back in your judgments when it gets to January, we go, you want to be looking at replacing Liam Scales.
But I remember a conversation last season that we had about Liam Scales, and I said he hadn't put a foot wrong yet, and you pointed out that he'd actually played somebody onside once, Lawrence. And
you lost the goal Champions League. Yeah, remember?
My point was, if that's the only thing you've done wrong, but I agree with you. If over the piece, Liam Scales over the piece this season has been our best centre half. I totally agree with that. I'm not playing him tonight, and I'll tell you why. Right? Not because he's unfashionable, absolutely not, but because of the pace of Trusty. And I think that at this level, that can kill you. That can absolutely kill you. When I was watching the game against Hibs, as great as Scales is, because we were playing such a high line, Lawrence, the minute Hibs broke that, he was struggling to get back. Not his fault, by the way, but he was struggling to get back. And I think that Trusty and Carter-Vickers in the central defensive area with Johnston on the right-hand side, Taylor on the left-hand side would be my preferred four at the back. If Liam Scales is playing left centre-back, I'm playing Baye left-back.
I don't think we'll play as high a line, mate.
No, not tonight.
We'll play as high a line. So I get what you're saying, Trusty's looking quicker than Scales. Certainly looks quicker in the turn. I don't think we'll play as high a line. And I think Scales deserves his place in there. I think it's more of a goal threat. His use of the ball, his passing from the back has been better than what I've seen from Trusty.
So you're going Scales, Taylor on the left.
Scales and Taylor, mate.
Right.
Vickers and Johnson.
Right. I'm going Trusty and Taylor. But if Scales is playing, I'm playing Baye. I don't think they're strong enough as a partnership on the left-hand side of defence. I'm talking Taylor and Scales. So if Taylor starts, Trusty starts, and vice versa. That's the way I'm going to go. Let us know in the comment section. Also, let us know your thoughts on Bernabei. Lawrence wants to have a look at him. I want to take the money and run. Let us know what you think.
So the thing is, we don't have an offer on the table just now anyway for Bernabei. There's rumours of one.
Yeah.
Bring him back, looking for 2 weeks. Those offers aren't going to disappear in 2 weeks. We don't have a winter break. We might have a chance to get him a run out. See what's changed. He's certainly not the player that we sent over there. His game's certainly improved. From what you saw here, would you ever imagine they'd be the best left back in Brazil?
Listen, we're going to come back to this episode at some point in the future, Lawrence, and see who was right and who was wrong. Ridiculizer, absolutely, that was one of the most exciting games under the Martin O'Neill.
Do you remember Chris Sutton?
tenure?
Mate, that header
Oh,
absolutely dominated the Juventus defence.
Unbelievable.
Tightest defence in Serie A, and Chris
Boston.
Sutton's out there dominating them.
Boston 4-3. Unbelievable night at Celtic Park. And here you go, Gerard McCulloch, one of my favourite youngsters at Celtic. Daniel Cummins has scored yet again for the B squad. They are playing.
What do we do for a third striker? Is it bring Johnny Kenny back? Is it promote Cummins? I tell you what, see, if this season, if we just signed Kyogo and Ida, and we're 14 games in, they're both in 6 goals, I'd be looking at January and going, geez, we need to be thinking about another striker. If this was our first season so far, but
I know.
they've got a good, they've got, prior to that, they've got a cracking record with us. I think Ida maybe a wee bit of time to go up to fitness after missing pre-season with us. I don't think Norwich pre-season is a Celtic pre-season.
He's got his touch back. He's got the sharpness back.
He's looking match fit now. Kyogo, what a first touch for and what a goal. But
off the scale.
Yeah, but both of them are on 6 goals, 14 games into the league. It's definitely something that I'd be looking at improving. But could Cummins step up? Is it Johnny Kenny? But Johnny Kenny's on about he's scoring in Europe.
It's a good question. It's a very good question, right? So I'll give you my take on it. So Kyogo never scored the level of goals, the amount of goals that he did under Ange whilst Brendan Rodgers in charge, but it doesn't make him a worse player. A big question for me is, does he hit 100 goals this season? Probably not, because he's going to have to get another 19, right? So he's probably not as prolific. Maybe under Ange he would have done that. But I don't think that worries Brendan Rodgers too much. Now, on the question of a third striker, and if you're looking at Daniel Cummins versus Johnny Kenny, almost say John Joe. Oh, that was a flashback.
Left back, mate.
Johnny
Kenny.
Kenny.
Ibrox didn't chase it back, just stopped in the park.
Unbelievable.
We don't stop.
Where is he now? So Johnny Kenny, from what I was hearing when he was at Celtic and when he was loaned out in Scotland, he was homesick. He wanted to get back home. He wanted to go back to him. And again, completely different type of player, different position, etc. But he showed the form of Sligo Rovers that made Celtic go and buy him, right? Couldn't replicate the form at Celtic, goes back to Ireland for Shamrock Rovers, replicates the form that he showed that attracted us to him in the first place. So it's a wee bit similar to the Bernabei situation. So the question is, do you bring him back in? The thing with him, if it's homesickness, and he's been back in Ireland for a year or a year and a half, Lawrence, and he's matured and he's that wee bit older, maybe he's ready now to come back to Scotland. So that wouldn't surprise me if we wanted to have another look at him, for sure.
What about Cummins?
Cummins, I want him to
in front of him, haven't we?
That's what I want. I want him to have a contract offer, because last I heard they hadn't even had that. Get him in and about the squads. He's been in and about the first team training. He's a goal scoring striker, something we don't produce that often at Celtic. I would love to see him being the third striker.
Listen, it's either that you're looking at buying somebody in, because Kyogo, if he doesn't hit 100 this season, will he be with us next season? Will Celtic cash in on him?
Well, we've got him under that new contract. And I think the Man City rumours, obviously, that were floating about at the beginning of the season were very interesting indeed. And I had my take on it at the time. There will be suitors. There absolutely will be suitors for a player like Kyogo.
No doubt about that goal at the weekend, mate. Absolutely standing take, wasn't it? And then
it was like AI. It was like AI. Yeah. Honestly, it was unbelievable. Now, Monty's given me an idea for a big gig, maybe in 2025, and I'm pretty sure it would sell out any venue in Glasgow. Craig White, Charles Green, and Hector. Would you go to that?
Oh, without doubt, mate.
I would host that, Monty. I'd host that.
It shows you how to educate a populace in taxation law, doesn't it?
We'd sell a few tickets for that one, by the way. Wee Bree would go for Baye tonight for his speed. Okay, it's a good debate. Let us know in the comments section if you agree. And Derek is in. Derek Hayden. This week is as big as it gets. Victory tonight will guarantee us knockout Champions League football till at least February. And a win on Sunday, and we start believing of another domestic treble. Andy Lee, off the radar. That was the headline, wasn't it? Off the radar wealth. Yes, absolutely. And Liam Devine. Brendan has the most Champions League points away from home of all Celtic managers. Definition of pragmatic again. And Jungle Lion lets us know that, like Dominic Behan in Dublin, it's pronounced Behan, not Behan, even though I've been calling him Behan. And for a wee bit more on Dominic, tune into our episode with Ken McCluskey, who had the absolute pleasure of knowing him, writing songs with him, waking up in his mum and dad's house and seeing him on the couch sleeping after a few bevies with his dad. If you've not watched it, go and check it out. The wingers, two of the best players of the season, a wee bit quiet over the last couple of games. Will they come alive tonight? We're talking, of course, about Nicholas Kuhn and Dyson Maeda, Lawrence.
Listen, Maeda's going to give you what he always gives you. No worries about Maeda. It'll be solid, it'll be non-stop. No worries at all about Maeda. Worries about backup for him. And I suppose
I agree with that.
Well, Kuhn, it's a stage we want him to perform on. His numbers have been absolutely out of this world. And he's been a bit quieter. I don't know why he was taken off. Was he feeling a bit of tightness? I don't know. Or was it to save him for tonight? Because this is a big game, isn't it? We're always going to beat Hibs. This is a big game, and this is where you need him to perform. And I'd be expecting him back to his best. There's been talk of call up to the German national team. Has that maybe affected him? Added a wee bit more pressure on him. It's got to be something that he aspires to. He was a bit of a wonder kid. He's been with some big clubs that didn't work out for him. He's come to Celtic and he's put himself back in the map. He's started to deliver on his promise. So with that goes a bit of pressure, doesn't it?
Without a doubt. I mean, this seems to have been part of his issue throughout his career. This prodigy of a player. He won a German award as an under-19 that tends to be won. It's like their version of the Ballon d'Or. He wins it as the up-and-coming prospect. And then he gets the chance at various big clubs. Doesn't really kick on. This is another opportunity. It looks like he is kicking on. And I'm not concerned. I think he's going to hit the heights. And I hope it's tonight. It was a wee bit like people were talking about moments. There's going to be big moments. Ida is going to have a big moment. Forrest will have that big moment this season. Could be tonight, could be on Sunday.
James just needs another goal, doesn't he? He's already got the assist for this season. Needs another goal to keep his record going.
I'm glad you mentioned that, right? Because you're so fixated with the ability of Kyogo to control and dink that ball that you don't focus on the assist. The assist was brilliant because Forrest was the guy that broke up play initially.
Yeah.
Then he lays on Kyogo. It was a brilliant bit of play. And I don't mind if I don't mind if James Forrest doesn't start another game this season. The impact he can make off the bench, Lawrence, is brilliant.
Well, he's no longer a 90-minute player. We know that. But the quality he has is undoubted, mate. And it's just looking for his goal this season to keep his record going.
Yeah, 16 in a row. And I think, Paul McStay got 16 goals in a row. I would need to check who else. Jimmy McGrory, perhaps.
Hail history. He's done it. I think he's like 4th or 5th.
Right.
There's a number of players that are.
Are we talking Alec McNair, number 1?
I don't know if McNair's number 1, but somebody's 21 seasons or something. So I don't know if it was the icicle because he was a fullback. Can't believe the icicle would be scoring. Maybe McMenemy or something. But I'll check with Matthew over at Hail history who it is. But it's something like 21 seasons in a row.
Sensational.
The icicle, what a nickname, mate, eh?
They all had great nicknames back then, though, didn't they? The icicle. They sound like superheroes. Mr. Whip 55, Scales was covering for Taylor most of the game against Hibs. I agree with that. It was glaringly obvious. Taylor was all over the place. AGSC Tech, Cummings looks an amazing one-touch finisher like Giakoumakis. What more does he need to do? Again, I agree with that. One last position tonight, Lawrence. Is it Ida? Is it Kyogo? Who do you pick?
Start away from home. I'm going to start with Kyogo. I think just that goal at the weekend's probably swayed me. Just the finish and the touch, or the touch then the finish. I've no worries with either starting, but I think that was a really special goal. I think he probably deserves him to start. You'll see that at some point. There'll be a switch at some point.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I think the reason he started against Atalanta was we knew it was going to be more of a defensive display. I don't think we're going to go out there and defend tonight. I think we're going to go out there and try and go for the jugular.
I think we'll play similar kind of distances between the defence and the midfield, but I think we'll have more opportunity going forward. I think we'll have more of the ball. I think without the ball, we'll be as tight at the back.
Mm-hmm.
It might not be as expansive, but I think we'll have more opportunity going forward. Be more
We're
going to look for either to hold that ball a lot more, weren't we? And just going to hold it and maybe get a run with it and tire the centre halves. I think that we'll have a lot more of the ball offensively.
And finally then, Lawrence, how are we going to do tonight? What's your prediction?
I'm going to go with a 3-1 for Celtic, mate. Surprisingly, another Celtic win for me, but you know, probably get 10 minutes to kick off and I'll change it to 3-0, but 3-1 just now.
Right, I'm going to go 2-1 Celtic. I won't be on the show. It will be hosted tonight by Chris McElwain, and he'll be joined by Ryan Pearce and Sean Connolly. I will be at Barra's Art and Design. Now, if you're in and around the Glasgow area and you fancy coming along and watching a game with fellow Celtic supporters of a similar state of mind on the big screen with a free pie and in the presence of Jackie McNamara, then come along. The doors open at 4 o'clock. Obviously, we will have live music as well. David McKendrick will be playing live. It's all free. Just turn up. Really looking forward to that. See if you can make it. And join us again tomorrow for a Celtic State of Mind.